During scary and uncertain times, the need for safety and security is greater than ever. The need for someone to lead and provide it is just as great. But once that safety and security is achieved, what would you be willing to sacrifice to keep that safety? Or would you be willing to sacrifice that safety for just a chance at something better? Chapter 4 begins with Poppy and I going down the lift. Poppy is worried about Kissy, so she decided to go back up the lift while I continued forward. She warns me that the horrors down here doesn't hide what it is, unlike above. Making my way through the loading bay, I could see the red smoke that we diverted traveling in the pipes above me. So far it has been the same broken down facility with random bloody toys scattered around. But when I entered the checkpoint, before me were mountains of dead toys. Among those dead toys were live ones who've gone feral. They have been eating the other toys to keep them satiated. One leaped at me, but I was able to scare it off with my flare gun. When I approached the facility's prison entrance, a loud alarm sounded and all the feral toys chased after me. Once they went away, I climbed a mountain of dead toys, which hopefully leads me further into the prison. But this is where I saw another person, but they were long gone. They looked like they were the conductor of the train who met an unfortunate end. Ollie then called to warn me how it was practically hell up ahead. All the bodies came from inside and that I should prepare myself. Inside one of the train containers was a decaying corpse of one of the toys. This one was rotting away, revealing its skull amidst the patches of fur that it still had on. From the conductor's room, I was able to repower the train to open one of the containers. I entered it, expecting it to lead me straight to the prison safely. As I hear the train speeding up, the monitor in my container lit up and an ominous eye appeared. It started speaking to me, but unlike the other toys, this one had a more mature voice to it. This entity seemed to be controlling the train that I was in and caused the ride to be rough. I then blacked out after hitting my head on the train floor. Once I woke up, one side of my container door was open with the other blocked. I was able to crawl into the vents and use my hand to force open the other door. As I was about to enter the prison, I saw a small smiling critter quickly crawl, which reminded me of my time in the previous chapter's playhouse. Going down to the ground floor, there were other smiling critters devouring another of their kind. I was able to scare them away with a flare so they no longer blocked the door. There were piles of toy bodies in the process of being burned. Around me, I could hear monstrous roars and screeches. Stepping into what I believed was a staff room, I found one of my co-workers' rotting remains and gained a new red hand from them, which contained a flashlight. When I tried leaving, the voice closed the door behind me and started to examine me. He then wanted to test my response to my fear when pushed to the action. Then all at once, small huggy wuggies and smiling critters were released from the cells and started attacking me. I tried my best to run around them while scaring them off with my flares, but they still got some scratches in on me. Just when I thought I was done for, the voice had called them off. They were very obedient to the voice, as the horde of them could have easily finished me off. Using the red hand, I entered the cell block's control room and opened the door leading out. This led me to the central control room of the prison. I got a call from Ollie trying to reach to me, but there was too much interference for him to clearly reach out to me. I used the red hand to open up another cell block where I entered through a side door. This area had bodies of my co-workers scattered around. Turning the corner was a horrific sight of bodies piled on the debris. Crawling through, I found one with the key card. I was afraid that one of them would suddenly come back to life somehow, but it really showed how gruesome the hour of joy was. With the key card, I was able to enter another cell block, but the voice had trapped me and started flooding the room with red smoke. Thinking quickly, I tore open a way to the lower levels and closed the valve of the pipe feeding in the red smoke. Once I reached the cell block's control room, the air started to clear just as I was about to suffocate. Purging the gas from the cell block, it caused the red smoke to blow open the window on my left. Going further into the prison, I found a special observation cell room. Some had been broken into and told a story of something gruesome getting my co-workers. When I entered one of the observation rooms, the voice appeared once again and closed the door behind me. He started to address the other creatures that I faced as numbers, hinting that he must have been very evolved in the experiments. He then called for Yarnaby. The door on the other side of the observation window opened and at first nothing, but then Yarnaby rushed out and crashed into the window. He clearly could see me as he was desperately trying to get at me. The worst part about him was his face split in two, revealing his fleshy insides and sharp teeth. Once he knew he couldn't get me yet, he walked away. The voice then said he would be taking notes of my interactions with Yarnaby. With no choice but to play along in this game, I reached the locked door and caught Yarnaby going into the large vents. And right after, a stretchy arm reached down and opened the door for me. I assumed it was one of the monstrous toys, but hopefully it was a docile one like Kissy Missy. I was able to sneak by Yarnaby as he continuously was hunting me down. Just when I thought I got away, he crawled up behind the shelves and started chasing chasing me down the corridor. As I approached the yellow door ahead of me, the same stretchy arm unlocked the door for me. I closed the door behind me and Yarnaby was banging at the door. It was furious, but then left. Later on, I accidentally slipped off a ledge and fell right into another cell block, and waiting down for me was Pianosaurus. It started to run at me while I was still on the ground, and just when I thought it was over, stretchy arms reached out from the shadows and grabbed Pianosaurus. It started smashing him along the walls and floors. Pianosaurus was then dragged into the darkness and was destroyed as parts of him slid towards me. Coming out of the darkness was a creature made out of Play-Doh, and it started talking to me in a joyful tone. He walked towards me and told me not to worry as he won't eat me. He introduced himself as Doey and was told that he was expecting me. Doey had a very cheerful tone to him and moved in a cartoonish sort of way. I followed him through the interrogation rooms. He then informed me that the generator is in a pretty bad state, so they tried to reserve power by keeping certain rooms off. But Doey was willing to turn on the power for those rooms to help me traverse further in. Unlike Doey, I couldn't squeeze through any cracks to travel. Walking down the hall, I suddenly was grabbed by Kissy Missy and Poppy. In the shadows of the hallways that I was just in was the shadow of the prototype. He was stalking the halls. Following Kissy Missy and Poppy, we rushed to a place called the Safe Haven. Around me was makeshift tents and docile toys and drawings on the walls. Dory rushed in to see what was going on and was shocked by Kissy's injuries. Dory was furious that Poppy led the prototype near Safe Haven. Clearly there was a conflict between the two, but they both wanted the best for their friends. After Dory left, Poppy let me know that the orphans are still alive and they're with the prototype in his lab, which is further into the facility. The plan was to use the red smoke to fill the foundations and line it with old mining charges. Once we free the orphans, we'll light up the red smoke to blow up the place. While I was exploring Safe Haven, I found a room dedicated to all the people they lost with so many poppy flowers. On the walls were drawings of those who were upset that Poppy disappeared, and those who wanted to believe Poppy didn't leave them behind. Meeting up with the Doey, we're inside the generator room to talk. Doey begins by saying he has heard about all the things I've done and that they could use my help. The voice that I've been encountering was called the Doctor. His real name was Dr. Harley Sawyer and was once in charge of creating the living toys. They don't know how he's still alive after all this time, but they do know that he works with the prototype to trap and starve out the toys in Safe Haven. Talking about it really made Doey angry and that he had to take a moment to regain his composure. The Doctor is in possession of the Omni Hand, which used to belong to the executives of Playtime Co, and is essentially a master control to everything down here. The generator they have powering Safe Haven was off that grid. Doey asked me to get rid of the Doctor and to take the Omni Hand, but he also wanted me to consider how much sacrifice we'll be doing when trying to go with Poppy's plan to get rid of the prototype. Doey didn't want to lose his friends, which he calls his family. While traveling through the sewers, I could hear Doey and Poppy speaking. They were arguing about destroying the factory and themselves. Doey was very unhappy that Poppy disappeared to only come back asking for them to destroy themselves. Traversing the caverns, I was on my way to go to the Doctor's lair, where Yarnaby came out of the door, which I opened. I was forced to escape through a sad riot in no man's land, but Yarnaby had followed along with me. I was able to restore power to several sections of this area, all the while Yarnaby was hunting me down and going after any noises that I made. After restoring power to the doors to proceed while avoiding Yarnaby, I thought that I had finally escaped him, but then he had forced open the doors behind me. I ran for it, and Yarnaby was deceptively quick that I almost didn't escape him. Using a hanging chain to jump the gap, the same chain got loose and the hook at the end was caught in Yarnaby's mouth just as he was about to bite me. Yarnaby struggled only to fall into the molten fire below. With the Yarnaby consumed by the flames, I was finally free to proceed without the Doctor's guard dog patrolling the area. I ran into Doey, who was gathering parts to fix up the generator when nitrogen leaked from the pipes and froze him. I helped Doey by redirecting the gas in the pipes, but Doey walked towards the corner with a painful expression on his face. When I left him alone, I could hear him trying to comfort himself through his anger. Entering the Doctor's lair, he spoke to me and started to evaluate me by trying to determine the reason why I would return to such a place, something that I didn't even know yet. I came across a locked room with organs suspended in a tank. When I tried to unlock the door, the Doctor released nitrogen to freeze my hand in place, and at the same time the room started to get freezing cold. After severing the line to another blue hand in the room, I was able to grab it with my right hand and use it to stop the nitrogen from leaking into the room, and then lock the door containing the organs in it. By surging the power to the tank in the room, it had froze the organs, and at the same time the Doctor let out a painful scream. I thought that might have been it, but the Doctor continued to speak to me as I continued further in. I reached an area with red smoke and was able to traverse it with a gas mask on. The code to proceed was scattered throughout this area and was in the possession of toys who had experienced unique injuries. Using a chart nearby, I figured out the code and unlocked the room to the Doctor's brain. After surging power to it, the Doctor's brain was fried by the electricity. I then lost my gas mask to the smiling critter who ambushed me. Going further in, the Doctor had set set up a trap that disabled my purple hand, but he also set up a second trap while I tried to swing across the gap. This led me to fall into the cages of the smiling critters below, which also contained another red room with a tank in it. Diverting power to unlock that room, the doctor forced me to make a decision: plug in the power to fry the small smiling critter trapped in the tank, or for me to do nothing and die. I couldn't die just yet, so I had to make the hard decision to fry the smiling critter. I now found myself deep in the doctor's lair. The hallway was filled with monitors as I walked by. His all-seeing eyes popped up on the screen. Going through the door, I saw the doctor's final console ahead, but he had created animatronics to guard himself. It had grabbed me and tossed me on top of a trapdoor which took me below the doctor. I was to traverse the darkness, all the while the doctor would possess the many animatronics while they were strategically placed to terrify me and hurt me. Once I powered all the consoles in the area, I was able to make my way back upstairs to the doctor. Interacting with his console, I had shorted it out while his animatronics would desperately try to get me. The doctor let out his last words as he now faded out of existence. With the doctor gone, I was able to acquire the Omni Hand. I had 4 charges that would let me bypass the security in the place. I used the first charge to give me a route out of the doctor's lair. While on the cable car traveling back to Safe Haven, Ollie was finally able to get in contact with me as the interference from the doctor was now gone. Once I made it back to Safe Haven, Poppy was excited that I had the Omni Hand and that the plan was all going accordingly. I met with Poppy and Doi in the generator room, and I was able to proceed with the next step in the plan by going down into the foundations. As Doi was about to interject, the power suddenly went out, and Ollie called saying how the prototype is just outside. Poppy sent Doi to distract the prototype while I fixed the generator. With Ollie's instructions, I used the next charge of my Omni Hand to open the generator panel, and I was able to fix it. With that incident behind us, I headed towards the foundations. Along the way, I found a green tape which spoke of Doi. I revealed that Doi was composed of multiple children. There were 3 consciousness inside Doi, and one was revealed to be labeled as a problem child, as his emotions would cause Doi to go into violent rages. This would explain why Doi's emotions would shift quickly. When I arrived at the foundations, I grabbed the mining charges scattered around and activated the gas. Using the 3rd charge of my Omni Hand, I initiated the gas overflow procedure. I then escaped the foundations through a back path while scaring off the smiling critters. Taking the elevator up and making my way back to Safe Haven, Doi had grabbed me saying that he lost track of the prototype. He asked if I saw him at the foundations or if he went somewhere else. Doi was then trying to reason with himself that he led him away and everything was fine. But then a large explosion came from the direction of Safe Haven. Doi rushed off in disbelief. I returned to Safe Haven only to see the explosion had destroyed everything and everyone inside it. I found Doi crying over his friends. He started to blame himself, but then his sadness turned into rage, and then back to sadness, and then back to rage again. It was clear that Doi's problem personality was starting to take control, and he had tried to reason with himself that it wasn't my fault. Out of rage, Doi punched the pillar which collapsed the roof over him, but Doi crawled out as a giant beast. Inside his mouth was 3 heads, each one depicting the children that was used to make him. In this moment, Doi was just another mindless beast filled with rage. I ran towards the nearest exit, and the lift I was in went up just before Doi got to me. He tried to pull my lift back down, but I managed to escape. But it was only temporary as Doi continued to pursue me throughout the mine. Doi continuously yelled in rage how everything hurts and how everything hurts him. Doi was relentless and kept pursuing me. I used nitrogen to freeze Doi under each buzzsaw, which I then lowered onto him to deal damage. After enough times, Doi had ran off to recover. As I was about to make my escape, Doi grabbed me and started to throw a tantrum saying how everything was Poppy and I's fault for hurting him. With no choice, I triggered the nitrogen canisters around him and lowered a mining drill on top of him. Doi's last words to me was that he was sorry. A bitter end to someone who was an ally and friend but was overcome with his emotions and pain. In these back rooms, I stumbled upon a tape that Doi recorded. Doi had made a confession on the video as a way to express himself to somebody. The fighting had been getting bad, and it was really taking an effect on Doi, but everyone looked up to him to know what to do and where to go, especially since Poppy disappeared. Doi was sad that Poppy was gone and was thinking that she ran just like he was doing. Doi could escape easily, but he didn't want to leave the others behind. They were hungry and scared just like him, so he couldn't leave them. He decided to go back. The tape was for Doi to remind himself of why he stayed. The vent of the room then led me straight to where Poppy and Kissy were hiding. Poppy was calling out for Ollie but wasn't hearing a response. She was angry at me for getting rid of Doi and was doubting me. Ollie then called back and stated exactly where we were. Poppy was shocked as the voice in Ollie's phone was not only Ollie, but all the other toys. The prototype had been Ollie the entire time. Ollie used to exist, but that was a long time ago. The entire time we could hear the prototype moving around the walls. The prototype told Poppy that he would trap her in the case again, which caused Poppy to be consumed with with fear. The prototype then confessed how he took our explosives and used them on Safe Haven. Poppy then lost herself and ran into the vents in a panic. All the while, a beeping was getting louder and faster. Kissy acted in time and pushed me and her aside from the explosion and into a tunnel. Kissy tried to hold on to me, but her arm ripped off due to her previous injuries. I then plummeted deep underground and somehow survived the fall. I don't know where I was now, but I somehow ended up in part of the facility with poppy flowers. Using the last charge of my Omni hand, I opened the door, which immediately closed when I entered. Playing a tape in the room, it started off friendly and said that their laboratories were just up ahead. I was to ask a friendly scientist to let him know that I was very lost, but then the voice on the tape laughed as what he was saying was very silly. It let me know that I was in the highest clearance in the entire facility, and if someone finds me, I will be shot. The tape that I played let off an alarm, letting everyone know that I was here. Looking outside where I came from, I see Kissy stumbling towards me, but then I remembered Kissy lost her other arm. Crashing into the door was the very same Huggy Wuggy that chased me in chapter 1 and had haunted me ever since. My nightmares have survived and was now coming for me. Thank you all for watching chapter 4. Please consider liking and subscribing, but until next time, I will see you all later.